Hi everyone, this is Laurie. I hope this video finds you well and happy and everything is hopefully peaceful in your life at the moment. I wanted to do a walkthrough and a little bit of a review about the White Rabbit Oracle. It's an indie deck. The artist is named Ariana Siegel, and she has an Etsy shop here in the US called White Rabbit Oracle. And she also has a website, which is whiterabbittarot.com. This is an oracle deck. It has 60 cards in it. It comes in a white tuck box. It's traditional tarot size, the size of, say, a Rider-Waite-Smith. It is almost identical in texture and feel and size to the stretch tarot. So if you do have the stretch tarot, the feel is almost identical the way it shuffles. The cost is $30 US. $30 US, which is approximately 22 pounds, 25 euro, 37 Canadian dollars, and 38 Australian dollars. That was an estimate. The shipping in the United States is $4, so it would be $34 US shipped. She charges $14 for international shipping, which is roughly 10 pounds, 11 euro, 10 Canadian dollars, and 14 Australian. It does not come with a little white book, but you can get a 3-page PDF, which is in color, of the each image and the keyword, and then a series of sort of keywords to go along with the keyword. And also on the website she has some suggested spreads and uses and prompts. I printed the 3 pages out onto one sheet of printer paper so I could just kind of keep it handy. So this is just straight photo manipulation, I believe. So I'm going to go through them. There's abundance. Oh, something that you should know, there's a filter that was put over these images. So this is a good one for you to see it on. See, if you look at the skin of the legs, let me see if I can, yeah. How it looks like ink splattered a bit. I think it maybe is supposed to be aged slightly. So that sort of, right here, you can see it there, sort of distorted filter is on all of the images, and I think it doesn't bother me, but it has bothered some people, so that's something to be aware of. Okay, so action. There's a white rabbit that features in a lot of the images. Appreciation, attainment. The reason I like this deck is, well, I like the old-fashioned collage, old-fashioned images in a collage style. That's a very attractive type of deck for me. I like it. I like having all of so many things in the image to work with intuitively. So there are a couple of different ways to read this deck. For instance, you could use the keywords here for, what is this one? Celebrate. It says here the key concepts for celebrate: good news, open doors, possible travel, or if read in a shadow position or reversed type position, the need to let your hair down, movement, or exercise. So one way to read would be by using the little white book. Another way with keyword cards is, just to read it as a keyword regardless of what the image says. Sorry about that. So just celebrate. And then, but my favorite way to do it is to really look at the images and items and things that are in the card. And I think that lends itself really well to intuitive reading. What I like about this particular deck is where a lot of other decks are kind of nuanced. Cards can mean a variety of things. This deck is really very direct. It's relatively unambiguous, although I think it is quite easy to read intuitively. I believe I've seen some of these images in the Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck. There's the little white rabbit again. Illuminate. It's a really lovely image there. Imagine. Sometimes my head feels like that. Kindred spirits. Love. So this, the subject matter I find in this oracle is what made it unusual, and it made me want the deck. And then it's also made that's a very, very useful deck, because I think a lot of oracles have very similar themes to them. This one covers some themes that are not on all in other decks, and it makes it really unusual, and I've been able to do some very interesting readings with it. I've been working with it over the summer and since last spring, I think. And while there are a lot of positive aspects and a lot of cards that I would consider positive cards, there is quite a bit of a shadow in this deck, and not in a way that it's, I don't think, really terribly disturbing or scary, but you know, there's not vampires with blood dripping or anything like that. But the deck, it has, as you can see, I think a bit more shadow than light, which I kind of like in an oracle deck. It's been very useful doing readings by itself, also alongside the Stretch Tarot. And let's see what other tarots I've been using this with. It's slipping my mind at the moment. I'll have a look and I'll put them in. I'll write them in here on the screen when I do the editing. And Wisdom, that's the last card, so I'll just leave that there. Okay, so I'm going to kind of switch the screen around a little bit and show you some things I've noticed about this deck, just some interesting ways that I have been reading with it over the last couple of months. So, see you in a second. I'm reading a book right now on cartomancy, and there's a quote in the beginning I wanted to read to you because I think it fits well for this. It's about asking questions, and the author says, ask your questions, be honest about it, ask what you really want to know, not what you think you should ask. Don't be polite, be violent in your question. The wind in the leaves can be gentle or brutal, so don't worry about you overdoing it. And I really like that, especially with tarot cards. I think questions are really important to have, sort of specific questions to give us the most specific kind of answers. Vague questions, you know, sort of give you vague answers. But with this deck, the keyword choices and the images are so just specific and obvious, and they can answer questions in a way that I think maybe other decks necessarily can't. Okay, so let me kind of show you what I mean by that. When I started to go through this deck, when I first got it, I noticed that there were a lot of cards that had keywords that meant what would normally be seen as the same thing, like synonyms. So there were keywords like choice and decision. So those would seem on the surface to be the exact same thing. making a choice, making a decision, time to choose, time to decide. But because of the imagery that's used in the cards, they take on a very, very, very specific meaning. And I think these can be really helpful in readings, particularly when we have questions that need to be answered in a very particular and unambiguous way. So let me show you, for example, one of the things I first saw was the different ways love was played out in this particular deck. So here we have kindred spirits. That's a particular kind of love. Sometimes it's friendship, but kindred spirits can certainly be a romantic love where you're, cut from the same cloth almost. And so this is a very specific type of love. Let's suppose there's a person that I may be interested in, and I want to know how they feel. But I find with these cards, it doesn't pull any punches. So let me show you. So, kindred spirits, one type of love. And here we have the love card. We can see that this is a really innocent, kind of beautiful love. The little girl, and she's holding a basket of flowers. And here are some red roses, and the hand making the heart love symbol. And behind it, there's a heart with open heart. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So if I'm trying to find out how does this person feel about me, and this is the card I get, that's a pretty positive, easy to see card for me. It's maybe their relationship goal is to find love. So here's another one that could be seen as synonymous romance. And look, we have the same heart here, only this couple is inside it. We have them inside the heart, and they only have eyes for each other. Again, if this was the way the other person felt about me, and if I felt this way about them, that's very good information to have, and it's very, very clear. So here's another one while we're looking at kind of synonyms for love, and this is passion. And you can see from the card that we've got two people who, again, only have eyes for each other, just like these two in romance. Now, we've moved out of the heart, we've moved into the bedroom, so it's going to be a little steamy, I think. But that's obviously what they both want. We've got a lot of metaphors in the background here of open windows and big tall buildings and balloons taking off, and I think it's probably a crow, kind of indicating sort of supernatural something going on, maybe a deep attraction of these two people's souls. Again, another card that I guess we could see that as pretty positive if I'm interested in this person and I want to know what their relationship goals are. But here's another card, and it's desire. And normally you would think these two words, passion, desire, that those were synonymous. But the story tells us, the card tells us, a very different story. So again, we have two people here, but this is not the same kind of relationship at all. This woman has obviously fainted. I don't think she's dead. She's just completely passed out. The man is certainly nefarious. We're supposed to think he is. Look at the mustache and the top hat. I mean, he's a kind of an old movie bad guy. They're not in a beautiful bedroom overlooking mountains or anything like that. They're in a city in a dark tunnel, all alone. It's kind of dirty in there. It's not very nice. Obviously, she's passed out for whatever reason, and he's taken her into this tunnel. And even the bird, look, that's flying over. It's like a bird who's looking for, a dead animal to prey upon, something like that to eat, to scavenge, which doesn't bode well for what's going to happen with this woman here. So this is the card I draw when I want to know, how does this person I'm interested in feel about me? That's pretty unambiguous, right? There's a really big difference there than these other ones. And so I think, wow, I mean, this is a really very clear way to find out that maybe, I shouldn't go on that date with this person or go on the second date with the person. And okay, let's look at some other potential scenarios. Let's suppose I wanted to hire someone, maybe to work as a nanny. Do they work well with children or whatever? And I get these cards here, balance and patience. That would be a very good indicator for me. Potentially brings a lot to the job. And also, we see that the person's quite patient. All the water behind there, they may be loving, maybe very open. So we have the open window. And that would look pretty good if I was going to hire that person. Yeah, I think I might hire that person if that's what I'm looking for. Let's say I get these cards, playfulness and adventure. So here's the white rabbit. There are white rabbits in quite a few of the cards, not all of them. So we've got adventure. And you can see here they're about to head out of building, kind of into the forest on a maybe untrodden paths, taking, the pathways that are not usually taken, not by the book, because they're leaving the book, so it's not a person who works by the book. So again, if I'm thinking about a person for watching children, it might be important to know that this person's going to kind of lead them on a merry adventure. Maybe there may not be many nap times strictly adhered to, or they may not be very good about tidying up the house or other things like that. Although playfulness is a nice sounding word, you know, I talked earlier about the different ways to read them, by the little white book, by the keyword, by the image. In this case, I'm looking at the image and I see outside this window there's like a giant mushroom world going on here, and it's pretty trippy. And we have the bunny, and he's coming through the window. So this rabbit is coming into the house. He's bringing whatever this crazy Alice in Wonderland stuff is going on out here into the house. And inside the house we've got kind of some creepy toys. This is not probably going to be your average babysitter, and that would be important to know, because this candidate for the job would be acting in a very different way than this candidate for the job. So it depends what I'm looking for, which candidate I might choose. I hope that makes sense. I wanted to show some cards, again, that were quite similar, but a little bit different. So here we have Adventure, and here we have Fairylands. And to me, these cards are similar, but they bear important differences. So Adventure is, although we're going off on a path into the woods, kind of on an unbeaten path, and we're not going to be working by the book. And, you know, we might feel a little nervous about that, because that white rabbit is a little bit, he seems like he's a bit nervous. And here we see him again, a bit nervous. And we've got some lovely little fairy dancing up here going on. Then we see we've got a child on top of the books, and this person's lost. And then we've got a wicked witch here behind the book, lying in wait for perhaps the fairies, perhaps this little lost child, perhaps the rabbit. Maybe the rabbit has something to be worried about, because if he just turned around, he would see that there's a witch there. And so you have Fairylands and you have Adventure, but Fairylands, it seems to be much more deceptively oriented than Adventure does. And also there's a lot of books here. Books aren't open. The books are all closed. You know, so there may be some hidden types of things that we don't know about that would be a very different message if you're receiving this than if you're receiving that, even though they seem somewhat synonymous. I hope that makes sense. So we want some guidance on kind of our spiritual life, where we're going spiritually, that kind of thing. And we get the guidance card. But we see, in this case, guidance or the spiritual wisdom is coming from an outside source. Either we are getting relying too much on outside sources, or we need to seek an outside source. I would tend to see this more as seeking an outside source. Now here is wisdom, which again, they could be seen as very similar, but it's very much contained within this glass sphere. So although it's ours, coming internally, not externally, it's a contained kind of wisdom. I hope that makes sense. And then let's look at this one, illuminate. So this is definitely coming from within, because she's illuminated, literally lit from within. And it's not contained. She's outside that sphere that we see here. So we see kind of this uncontained spiritual energy. Again, a very different message than what we would be getting from these earlier cards. Attainment. Again, similar themes. This is all about the quest for knowledge or spiritual growth. She's not up here in the heavens. She's sitting on the earth, on the ground, at the roots of a tree. We see a very earthy, grounded, sort of like a Queen of Pentacles almost, look in her attainment of wisdom. It's a very earthy, grounded spirituality versus a very sort of, upper chakras, spirity, sort of lighter, less grounded spirituality, if that makes sense, versus a grounded. So those are two very different things if we're looking at where we are spiritually. Similar words, completely different meanings. So, the concept of law of attraction, manifesting, things along that line. And here's the card. So we're going to manifest, but let's think about maybe what the goals are. One of the things I think that can sometimes happen with the law of attraction and manifesting and things like that is it becomes very fixated on material goods. If we're looking at manifesting, we've got appreciation. And here she's admiring her pearls and all of her riches, and she's very taken with all of her goodies that she has. Splendor, as is this woman. So what exactly are we manifesting? Here's direction. So going in a direction without your head is not necessarily very helpful. Do you see what I mean? This card is a very important message here. Where are you going? You think you're going down a road, but you're not even using your head. What are you manifesting? You're just manifesting riches? Why? What's the end point in this manifestation? What is your goal? You're going in a direction, but do you even know where you're going? Here's change. Now take a look at this. Change just for the sake of change does not always end well. Whereas let's look at some different kinds of manifesting that might happen. So again, we've got the woman here. The red flower and the white flower is kind of an alchemical process, which leads to renewal. So now, if you can see those, the red and the white rose have become pink roses through the process. And the woman is thrown off her widow garb. She's young, she's renewed. The butterflies are out and she's heading toward the light, which leads to a transformation. So you see she's become transformed completely. We've still got the butterflies there. They have lost their color, but she has gained all the color. Yeah, she's still in the woods though, do you see? The step we need to take next is out of the woods and into abundance. And here we have both the butterflies having the color, and the surrounding her has color and abundance, and she also has color and abundance. And so even these 4 cards could I think quite easily be used as part of a pathwork toward manifestation. So you want to manifest. The first step may be renewal. The next step may be transformation. The final step being abundance. Laying them out and drawing perhaps tarot cards to go along with it. What do I need to manifest? What do I need to do first in order to manifest? What does my renewal step look like? What does my transformation step look like? And then what will abundance look like? An internal transformation that then leads to external, as opposed to change just for the sake of change because of, wanting material goods, if that makes any sense. I thought that was really kind of nifty the way that worked. So while I have a couple of these cards out, I wanted to show the shadow and light that's in this deck. For instance, once again, we're looking at words that would normally mean the same thing, but have a actual very different kind of meaning. So we've got renewal here, and we've got resurrection. But in this renewal, she's come back to life, and she's going to be following the butterflies outside of the mausoleum or the crypt or the cathedral, wherever she is. And these two have come to life as well. They're leaving a graveyard, it looks like, but they're still bones. And look, the bird's following them, waiting for them to drop. This is not a change that's going to last for a long time. This is a short-term change, and one that might not be in our best interest. This is something long-term that is more in our best interest. So you remember the transformation card that we had here, the woman with her little pumpkin carriage. And we've got magic. The transformation is very active. She's got a fan. She's created this transformation for herself. She's got a carriage. She's going to be driving that carriage herself. There isn't anything that's driving it. But we look at this magic card, and the thing that this woman is expecting to happen here is passive. Look, she, even in spite of all this beautiful curtains and things like that, she's inside that building. She hasn't stepped out of it. So we've got like an active transformation, passive magic. So, look how cool that is, because that's pretty obvious what's happening here versus what's happening here. I wanted to compare this with a card that's similar, but we see that this isn't a freeing kind of guidance. This is an ensnaring kind of guidance, and we're going to be ensnared in that. It's a really critical card if we're looking at whether or not a particular spiritual path is in our highest good. This is about seeking a teacher. This is about avoiding becoming ensnared. So, do you see how cool, how useful these cards can be? And I wanted to show you a couple of cards that really spoke to me. One was this, sacredness and trust. This is like an enormous tree, and the hands are coming out from it. So this person is like a tree in their steadiness. So whether we're the person who someone else is going to rely upon and trust, or whether we're the person who's rather nervous and vulnerable standing in their hands. And the shadow card have an awareness of what is underlying. And you really don't have to guess with this card because it's just so obvious that it's a shadow. There's a shadow. There's some kind of a something there that needs to be seen. So let's suppose that we're looking at, you know, I'm on my dating app and I'm gonna have lunch with somebody who I've been matched with or whatever. Should I go out with this person or not? Secrets. This person is obviously hiding a lot. They're not telling the truth. You can see because she's got her mouth covered. She may be portraying herself as being a free bird, but there's actually caged. Maybe this person's married. Maybe they're not single. Maybe they have children. Maybe they're older than they say they are or younger than they say they are. Secrets. I mean, this is definitely something to be aware of. This one, serendipity. Everything looks lovely, doesn't it? When pigs fly. Should I go out with this person? Probably not. Looks good on the outside. Yeah, maybe it's actually not going to work out. And here is the card that I really almost, as I said, stopped me from buying the deck. My daughter said to me, don't let that stop you from buying the deck because you can always take this card out if you don't like it. And then once I started really looking at it, I realized that you get this card. It says invitation, but this is not an invitation I would ever accept. Look at this. It's like a furry, one of those furry conventions. Or that creepy scene from the movie The Shining. This is not a good setup here. I don't know what he's promising, but she should not buy whatever it is that he's selling. If there was ever like a perv card, this would definitely be it. Unless you're, you know, really into that kind of thing, I think it would be very important to note that this person's a little bit pervy, and maybe you need to be aware and take some, so use some caution, or maybe just get away from them. You know, it looks like what they're inviting you to looks like it's all happiness and roses, but you know, good things are not going to happen here. Humpty Dumpty's going to fall off the wall, and the path is not easy or smooth, and it's very dark and a little bit creepy. That would be a really good answer. Should I date this guy? No, he's a perv. Don't date him. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about. I've also been using these cards for, I guess you would call it spirit work in a way. So I had watched a video at one point when I received this deck about a woman who used tarot cards to find missing people and to try to solve cold cases. And at the time, there was a missing persons case. It was here in the state where I live. And within a very short period of time, 4 young men in their late teens and early 20s had all gone missing from roughly the same area. And nobody knew if they were connected or not. They'd gone missing over, I believe, a week's period of time. And it was suspicious. So they had search parties out looking for them, and the police were involved, and they had their pictures up if you've seen this person, if you've seen this person's car, that sort of thing. And so I kind of had seen in this video that I watched about the woman who used tarot or used cards to find missing persons. She said she generally asked 3 questions. She asked what their physical condition was or their physical location. She asked what their mental or emotional condition was, and she asked why they were there or what happened, basically. Like, so if was there a crime? Was there an accident? Did they just disappear on purpose? Do they, you know, do they run away? Do they not want to be found? So basically, physical condition or location, mental or emotional, and what happened. And so I drew 3 cards about the situation of these 4 missing people, trying to find out sort of, you know, are they together? What is their physical condition or location? What is their mental condition? What happened? This is the card I drew for their mental condition. Was attainment or enlightenment, or their emotional or mental condition. And I immediately thought that was probably a good indication that they were no longer alive. I asked about their physical condition, or location, and I drew that card. And thirdly, I asked what happened, and this is the card I drew. And looking at these cards, I kind of suspected that perhaps they were no longer alive, that they were all underground somewhere, but that they were probably going to be found very, very shortly. You see this woman is underground, but she's about to take her blindfold off. So I thought they would probably be found very shortly. And what had happened, this was very interesting. This is called enchantment, this particular card. It shows 4 statues with their arms over their eyes, walking toward these sort of an area of rapids or a cliff, some kind of danger. You know, there's a light that they're going towards, but their eyes are covered. And to me, this just kind of showed that I thought people were, you know, enchantment to me would be drugs. And there were 4 of them, that perhaps all 4 of them had been seeking drugs or trying to buy drugs or use drugs or something like that. And that's what had happened. And they're no longer alive. And I did the reading and I took a picture and I told a couple people about it. And then in about a week or so, they were found. They were all found in the same location on a piece of farmland. And the story went that they, yes, at different times over different days, had attempted to buy drugs from the person who lived on this farm, and they were all killed because of that. Each of them were killed. I believe 3 of them were together, and 1 of them was separate, but they were all buried underground in the same location. And 1 was quite nearby that location. I mean, within a few yards, I think, of that location. It was a drug buy that had gone bad. They had all died, and they were all discovered. And but you know, I took comfort in the concept of you know, that they were in a place that was at peace now, and that their souls were at peace in some way. And so, and I've done some other readings like that. That's the only one I'm going to share. But that was interesting to see how unambiguous the cards could be in this type of reading. So that is the White Rabbit Oracle. I hope you have found this review to be helpful. Bye-bye.